Most people believe that if a food is sold in every grocery store, served in hospitals, and recommended by well-meaning friends, it must be safe. Especially after retirement, when routines settle in and breakfast looks the same every morning. A familiar plate, a familiar drink, a habit repeated without a second thought. But what if one of those everyday foods, something millions of older Americans eat daily, is quietly changing the way your blood moves through your body? Not in a dramatic way, not overnight, and not with pain that sends you rushing to the emergency room. This change is slow, silent, almost polite. It doesn't upset your stomach, it doesn't make your heart race, and it certainly doesn't announce itself with warning signs you'd expect. Yet cardiac surgeons say this is exactly what makes it dangerous. Inside your bloodstream, tiny shifts begin to happen. Blood flows just a little thicker, just a little slower. And over years, not days, that difference matters. Many seniors only discover it after something feels off. A calf that suddenly feels tight. A strange heaviness in the chest while walking the dog. Shortness of breath climbing stairs that never used to be a problem. Moments often brushed off as just getting older. But here's the uncomfortable question cardiac specialists are asking. What if age isn't the main reason? What if it's what we're eating every single day without realizing how it affects an aging body? Today's video matters because this isn't about rare conditions or extreme diets. It's about ordinary foods, eaten by ordinary people, quietly interacting with a body that processes things differently after 65. By the end of this video, you'll understand why certain foods become riskier with age, why so many people underestimate the warning signs, and how small adjustments can protect your circulation without giving up the foods you enjoy. Because awareness doesn't take anything away. It gives you control back. As we move past our mid-60s, the body begins to follow a different set of rules. Not worse rules, just different ones. Blood vessels gradually lose some of their flexibility. The heart still works hard, but it must push blood through pathways that are less forgiving than they once were. Kidneys filter more slowly. Muscles move less often. And circulation, which once adjusted effortlessly, becomes more sensitive to daily habits. This is where blood clot risk quietly enters the picture. Most people imagine blood clots as sudden, dramatic events, something that happens out of nowhere. In reality, clot risk often builds slowly, shaped by years of subtle changes. Slightly thicker blood, slightly more inflammation along vessel walls, platelets that stick together just a bit more easily than before. None of this feels urgent in the moment, which is why so many older adults underestimate it. Another reason this issue is overlooked is that many of the foods involved carry a healthy reputation. They're not fast food. They're not fried snacks. They're items often recommended decades ago, back when the body processed them differently. What few people explain is that digestion, hydration needs, and blood chemistry all shift with age. A food that felt harmless at 45 can behave very differently at 70 when eaten daily. Who is most at risk? The answer is broader than most expect. Seniors who sit for long periods. Those who don't drink enough water throughout the day. People managing high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, or kidney concerns. Even active retirees who eat the same comforting meals every day without variety. And especially those who live alone and rely on simple, repeatable food choices. Family life plays a role too. Many older adults eat what's easy, what's familiar, or what reminds them of earlier years. Breakfasts that require no thought. Dinners that feel comforting at the end of a quiet day. Over time, repetition becomes routine, and routine shapes physiology. The important thing to understand is this. Blood doesn't suddenly become dangerous. It responds to patterns. And once you recognize those patterns, you can change them gently, without fear and without giving up the pleasure of eating. That's why the next section matters most. Because understanding how certain foods interact with an aging body is the first step toward protecting circulation. To understand why certain everyday foods quietly raise blood clot risk after 65, we need to talk about how blood actually behaves inside an aging body. Blood is not just a red liquid flowing through pipes. It is a living system. It thickens and thins. It responds to stress, sugar, salt, fats, hydration, sleep, and movement. When we're younger, the body has a wide margin for error. Blood vessels stretch easily. The heart compensates quickly. Kidneys flush excess minerals, and waste without much trouble. Small dietary mistakes rarely matter. But after 65, that margin narrows. How blood thickening really begins. Blood thickening doesn't start with a clot. It starts with resistance. Blood moves just a little slower. Platelets, the cells responsible for clotting, bump into vessel walls more often. When vessel walls are irritated or inflamed, platelets are more likely to stick instead of slide past smoothly. Over time, this stickiness increases. This process is silent. There is no alarm, no pain, no obvious signal. What changes this process dramatically is daily repetition. The same breakfast, the same snack, the same dinner pattern. Not because the food is bad, but because aging bodies process concentrated sugars, saturated fats, sodium, and certain plant compounds very differently than they once did. Let's talk about how this plays out in real life. Early warning signs most seniors dismiss. One of the biggest dangers is that early signs of thickened blood feel ordinary. Many people attribute them to aging, weather, or poor sleep. Common early signs include heavy or tired legs in the afternoon, mild swelling around the ankles by evening, headaches that appear in the morning and fade later, feeling winded during activities that used to feel easy, a subtle pressure in the chest that comes and goes, brain fog or slower thinking after meals. Individually, these don't feel serious. Together, they often indicate blood that's moving under strain. Because these symptoms don't arrive dramatically, people adapt. They rest more. They move less. Unfortunately, less movement further slows circulation, reinforcing the cycle. This is where misunderstanding happens. Many seniors are doing what they believe is right. They choose foods labeled heart-healthy. They avoid fried foods. They eat familiar breakfasts that doctors once recommended. The problem is form and frequency. Blended foods, heavily processed grains, sugary cereals, processed meats, and high-fat dairy all share one trait. They either spike blood sugar quickly, inflame vessel walls, or linger in the bloodstream longer than an aging system can comfortably handle. For example, rapid sugar spikes trigger insulin surges. Insulin surges increase platelet activity. Saturated fats stiffen artery walls. Excess sodium raises blood pressure and slows circulation. Low hydration concentrates blood further. Each factor alone may be small. Together, repeated daily, they change blood flow mechanics. Before versus after, the quiet shift. Many older adults remember eating the same foods for decades without issues. That memory is real, because their bodies were different then. Before, flexible vessels, faster kidney filtration, higher daily movement, more muscle-pumping blood back to the heart. After 65, stiffer arteries, slower filtration, more sitting, less muscle-driven circulation. The same meal now creates a heavier circulatory load. Consider a retired American in their early 70s. Breakfast is cereal or toast with cheese. Lunch is light or skipped. Dinner includes meat, potatoes, and dairy. Hydration is minimal. Physical activity is limited to errands. They don't feel sick, but over months, they notice leg heaviness. Occasional dizziness when standing. Tightness in the calves after sitting. One day, walking upstairs feels harder. Later, swelling appears after long car rides. This is not sudden disease. This is accumulated strain. One of the biggest mistakes is believing that symptoms must be dramatic to matter. Another is thinking exercise alone cancels out dietary effects. Movement helps, but it cannot fully offset daily inflammatory foods in an aging body. Another misconception is avoiding fats entirely or skipping meals. This can actually destabilize blood sugar further, increasing clot risk indirectly. And finally, many people assume that if a food doesn't cause stomach discomfort, it must be harmless. Blood chemistry does not work that way. When thickened blood continues unchecked, the body compensates until it can't. Possible consequences include deep vein clots in the legs, increased risk of stroke, cardiac strain, and reduced endurance. Poor oxygen delivery to muscles and brain. Longer recovery times from illness. These outcomes don't arrive suddenly for most people. They build quietly. The good news is that circulation responds quickly to change. Blood chemistry can improve within weeks when habits shift. And that brings us to the most empowering part of this conversation. What you can do, starting now, without fear or extreme measures. Small, consistent adjustments are enough to restore smoother flow. Let's begin with daily habits. First, hydration becomes non-negotiable after 65. As we age, the thirst signal weakens. Many seniors simply forget to drink enough water. When hydration drops, blood becomes more concentrated and thicker by default. A simple rule is to drink a full glass of water upon waking, another mid-morning, and one mid-afternoon. Steady intake matters more than volume. Second, adjust food form, not just food choice. You don't have to give up foods you love. Instead, change how often and how they're prepared. Rotate vegetables instead of eating the same ones daily. Favor cooked over blended or raw forms if digestion or kidney function has slowed. Choose fresh foods more often than packaged ones, even if the label sounds healthy. Third, balance blood sugar gently. Avoid starting the day with refined sugar alone. Pair carbohydrates with protein or healthy fats to slow digestion. Fourth, move in circulation-friendly ways. Movement doesn't have to be intense to help blood flow. Short walks after meals assist circulation. Muscles act as pumps, helping blood return to the heart. Even 5 minutes at a time makes a difference. Fifth, sleep and evening choices matter. Circulation naturally slows at night. Lighter dinners support smoother overnight blood flow. Sixth, know when to check in with a doctor. If you notice persistent swelling or breathlessness, don't dismiss it. These are signals worth discussing with a healthcare professional. Early evaluation prevents larger problems later. Consistency is what your body responds to. Treat your circulation with respect, and it will return the favor. Your body is adapting, not failing you. The foods we eat each day quietly shape how our blood flows, how our heart works, and how much energy we carry into the hours ahead. The good news is that awareness alone changes outcomes. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to give up everything you enjoy. You simply need to make thoughtful adjustments that respect how your body works now, not how it worked decades ago. Even one change, drinking more water, rotating foods, choosing lighter dinners, or moving a little more often, can improve circulation in ways you can feel within weeks. That's not a promise. It's how the body responds when it's supported instead of ignored. If today's video gave you a new perspective, take a moment to share where you're watching from and how old you are. Your story helps others realize they're not alone in this journey. And if you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone you care about. Sometimes one small piece of information can make a lifelong difference. Make sure you're subscribed if you want more calm, practical guidance designed for adults who still value independence, clarity, and quality of life. Until next time, take care of your circulation, and it will take care of you.